Questions about California bill amendments. So first, what is an amendment? It's defined by the Office of Legislative Counsel as an alteration to a bill, motion, resolution, or clause by adding, changing, substituting, or omitting language. Can amendments be made to all legislative measures? Yes, they can be made to bills, resolutions, and constitutional amendments. They can also be made to motions. Can an urgency clause be added to any bill? Under Article 4, Section 8D of the state constitution, an urgency statute may not create or abolish any office, or change the salary, term, or duties of any office, or grant any franchise or special privilege, or create any vested right or interest. So the answer is no. Can a bill requiring returning on concurrence be amended? A bill cannot be amended when it returns to its house of origin for a concurrence vote. The amendment from the other house can be concurred in or not concurred in. Is submitting bill amendments the same process in both houses? No. The Assembly requires amendments to be submitted by 5 p.m. or the close of session the day before a deadline, while the Senate does not have the same rule. Also, the Assembly requires the member to stand on the floor and request either unanimous consent or a majority of those present voting to amend the bill. Do committees adopt bill amendments? Technically, committees actually make motions that a bill be passed with the recommendation that the floor adopt the specified amendments to a measure. Do bill amendments need a majority vote of a committee or the floor for adoption? Nope. Amendments to a measure can be made by a majority vote of those present and voting rather than a majority of the full committee or a majority of the floor members. Can a bill be amended during the 30 days following its introduction? The Assembly has a different interpretation of the 30-day wait period contained in Article 4, Section 8A than the Senate does. Once a bill has been referred to committee, the Assembly permits pre-committee authors amendments to bills within that 30-day period, while the Senate does not permit them. Must all amendments be germane to the original bill? Technically, yes. Germaneness, though, is determined on the floor by a majority vote of the House's membership. According to the rules, although the Legislative Council may be asked to opine on germaneness, the matter is subject to final determination by the full Assembly or by the Senate Committee on Rules. Can floor amendments be made at any time? There are limitations to making floor amendments. For example, under Assembly Rule 69, a motion to amend on the floor is not in order during the last 2 days before the January 31st deadline or the last 7 days before the interim recess or the final recess, unless that bill is suspended by a 2/3 majority vote. The rule does not apply to adding or deleting an urgency clause or adopting so-called chaptering or double jointing amendments. Can a bill be amended to just add a co-author? Under Joint Rule 9, an amendment is not in order when all that would be done to the bill is the addition of a co-author unless the Rules Committee grants prior approval. What are the 3 ways to make amendments? Authors amendments, committee amendments, floor amendments. Is there a format for amendments? Yes, they must be prepared or approved as to form by the Office of Legislative Counsel. How are an author's amendments made? Upon request of the author of a measure, the chairperson of the committee to which the measure, a bill, a resolution, or a constitutional amendment has been referred may report to the full House, the Assembly or the Senate, of course, with the recommendation that amendments submitted by the author be adopted and the measure be reprinted as amended and be re-referred to that particular committee. When can an author make author's amendments? They can occur either before a committee hearing or at a committee hearing or on the floor. How are committee amendments made? They're adopted by a roll call vote of the committee members, and they may or may not be acceptable to the author. A majority of those present and voting is required. When are committee amendments considered? They're technically considered upon their second reading, and the amendments may be adopted by a majority vote of the members present and voting on the floor. How are floor amendments made? Any member may move to amend a measure during its second or third reading, and that motion to amend may be adopted by a majority members present and voting. Floor amendments are not in order unless a copy of the proposed amendments have been placed upon the desks of the members on the floor. What happens after amendments are submitted to the desk? An analysis is prepared by the Committee of Origin, and a copy of that analysis is distributed to each member prior to the beginning of debate on adoption of the proposed amendments. What happens in the Assembly with a substantially amended bill? Under Assembly Rule 77.2, the Speaker may re-refer a bill to a committee for one of two reasons. Amendments adopted on the Assembly floor include policy not previously heard in an Assembly committee, or a bill returning to the Assembly from the Senate for concurrence in Senate amendments contains policy not previously heard in an Assembly committee. What happens in the Senate with a substantially amended bill? Under Senate Rule 29.10, floor amendments to bills are handled based upon the Policy Committee's analysis of the floor amendments. What happens on the Senate floor if the floor amendments are marked a rewrite? If the analysis is marked as a rewrite, but the subject matter of the amendments is germane to the previous version of the bill, then the measure is sent back to the Rules Committee for consideration on re-referral. What happens on the Senate floor if the floor amendments are marked new bill? Then the bill is withdrawn from the Senate floor and returned to the Senate Committee on Rules, which may either hold the bill or may refer the bill to the appropriate standing committee. What are considered hostile amendments? Those are proposed by another member in committee or on the floor that are not supported by the bill's author. What are friendly amendments? These are proposed by another member in committee or on the floor that are supported by the bill's author. And finally, what are gut and amend amendments? They are amendments made to a measure to remove the current contents in their entirety and replace them with entirely different provisions.